Hello, I'm Adrian, or Lee6113, and today we're going to talk about Quantum Black, which is one of my favorite role-playing games. So let's switch over to Roll20, and we'll talk about character creation. Now, Quantum Black is a role-playing game kind of set in a modern slash future kind of dark world. Magic has recently become a thing around the Earth, and there's been sightings of extraterrestrial devices. Things have been found, new technologies. There's the tech fields are just getting super advanced, and it's like almost on the border of like maybe cyberpunk a little bit. One of the characters in my campaign, Team Corvidae, which is these characters here, plus Zigzag, which I'll just show him off because he's got really cool art too. There's Zigzag. He's taken over and stolen a Wind Intelligence Systems, which is an opposing company, one of their robots, and so now he's got like a combat soldier droid that can walk around with the group. But anyways, this is about making a character within this Quantum Black setting. So Quantum Integrated Technologies is this huge company, one of the most wealthy tech companies is out there, and they own Quantum Black, which is like a shadow Black Ops organization, which is putting together teams to get sent out to intercept and stop and protect the Earth from all these threats, whether magic, from cultists to evil organizations growing around the world, or aliens. They basically try to be the first ones on site to get new technology that might be found, and just protect everybody from all this dangerous things that are starting to happen. So why would you be hired or sought out by Quantum Black? So when you make a character, we're going to jump to the top of this character creation quick guide. Let's zoom out just a smidge. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is to pick a team role for your character, and then you're going to want to choose an archetype and their motivation. Now there's only one thing in here that's going to actually impact you mechanically, but all this is to help you flesh out and build your character concept. So first you're going to want to get in touch with your party members and kind of figure out who's going to want to play what kind of role. There's obviously going to be a team leader, and then what kind of team are you going to want to be? There's combat heavy, there's investigation heavy, you can have a mix. So kind of get an idea for what your game master is wanting to run. If it's going to be something that's big, kick in the door, explosions, fight monsters, but set in the real world. Maybe you're going to have a close combat, a ranged combat, a covert operative, and a team lead, and you're all like a SWAT team. Or maybe you're wanting to play a more Call of Cthulhu style kind of investigator, who can still take a punch, that type of thing. Maybe you have like an investigator team lead, like a healer, like maybe he's a medic or a doctor, and you have like a academic or a supernatural occultist, a specialist in like arcane magic, even though it's still so new. So it depends, whatever team role you want to do. Kind of talk with your group, get that set up, and then the archetype is going to be like your background. It's not like D&D where if you say are going to be a cleric, then you have this spell list and you can do all these things. This is going to be mostly like your background, like where do you come from, what's your backstory. This is going to give you a snapshot in your mind of what kind of character you might be playing. So if you say you see the criminal archetype, maybe you were in jail and for whatever reason, and Quantum Black got you out so you could be on one of their teams, and that's kind of your whole story. This is going to be something just to inspire you for a character concept. Maybe you're the sole survivor from a Marine squad that was sent in somewhere, and they encountered a Lovecraftian monster, and you're the only person who got out. And after being discharged, Quantum Black snatched you up because you had that experience. That's up to you. You can choose whatever archetype, and if it's something on here that's not on here, just talk to your GM and you can probably come up with something, because this is just to help you flesh out your character. Now your motivation will have in-game mechanical benefits. If you are motivated because, let's say you and a party member are best friends and you chose protection as your motivation, and you act something to protect that best friend, maybe that's the only reason you're in Quantum Black is because your best friend got in Quantum Black and you followed because you want to make sure they're okay. Every time you do something to try to protect them in game, you'd get a style point, which is like a benefit that you get per session to add to your rolls. It's like basically having like an advantage in a D&D 5th edition equivalency a little bit, but I'll show that a little bit later when we're playing on the character sheet, which is actually up next, because the next thing to do once you've chosen your role, archetype, and motivation is to determine your primary attributes. Now we're going to jump over to a empty character sheet. This is like a template, which I use all for one regime diabolique character sheet on Roll20 because I find it's actually the easiest to use for Roll20. They also have a Hollow Earth Expedition character sheet and a Quantum Black character sheet on Roll20. However, I do not like them. The All for One is actually the most user-friendly and well-made for the game that we're going to be playing. So I just use it, and it's not 100% perfect, but it's good enough. So let me zoom in a little bit so you can see. So I named him Brian. That's subject to change. He could be Bob. He could be codename unknown. Whatever, we could name him what we want. I chose a close combatant as his archetype, so he's like a melee fighter. I was thinking maybe he's like a boxer, and then I put duty for his motivation. Again, all this can be changed as soon as I have a better idea of who it is. But when we get to the primary attributes, this is like you're in D&D choosing your 6 primary stats: body, dexterity, strength, charisma, intelligence, and willpower. Now, I threw him together very briefly, just these 6 stats, and this is not really a good way to start out your character, where I have a maxed couple of the one stat and then minimized a bunch of others. He'll be very heavy towards the one thing he's good at and very sucky at everything else, which means he's probably not going to be super helpful until he gets into a fight. What you do want to start with those, instead of jumping right into 3, like you spend 15 attribute points. So what I would do is actually change these all to 3s and all these to 2s. There's your 15. And then you can swap these however you want. Like I still want him to be strong in strength, and because he's like a boxer, he's probably got to be pretty good in dexterity and body, which means the other 3 stats are less important. However, I do want him to be stronger, but I don't want to maybe max it out to 5, because 1 means you're going to suck. 2 is okay enough. 3 is your average. You're pretty good at that. 4 means you're really good, and 5 means you are the best of the best. So getting to a 5 right off the bat is going to cost a lot to my other attributes, which maybe we don't want to do. But we're going to give him a 4, which means I have to take 1 away from somewhere else, and I don't want it to be dex or body because those are important for his character build. So like any other good fighter, we're going to make intelligence his dump stat. Willpower would probably be the other one. That's what I did before, is I boosted him to strength to 5 at a penalty to the willpower, but I don't think I want to do that just yet. This is going to automatically build your secondary attributes for you, so you don't have to do the math on it. To see what that is, just look at the cheat sheet for secondary attributes. You just do all the math for this. So if my strength and dexterity are both a 3, my movement speed, which on a grid, that is going to end up being a 6. And I can jump over to, let's just jump to the Lodge. This is a game that I ran pretty recently. And if I was to move somebody around, let's say Zigbot, each square is 1 space. So if my movement speed is 6, then I can move 6 spaces. Simple enough. Let's jump back to the character sheet. So all this is done for us. For movement, why is this not updated? Strength plus dexterity. Okay, so strength is a 4, that's why. So I have a 7 movement speed for him, so he's very quick. Size is always going to be 0. Your perception is always going to be your intelligence plus will, if I remember correctly. I think it has to be. Intelligence plus willpower. So perception, unlike D&D, is not a skill. It's a secondary attribute. Everybody can perceive things and look around. So a lot of the time when you're using this character sheet, always remember perception is not a skill. It's at the top here. So That's how you roll dice, as you click this. So my defense is pretty good as a 6, and I've got 5 hit points. That's pretty good. 4 is about as low as I would probably want to go with a combat character. 3 is you're very weak, and you could probably go down with 1 hit if you're not careful. So now that we have the secondary attributes, you go to skills. So with a starting character, you're going to choose 17 skill points and spend them. The way the character sheet works is you're going to have, let me zoom in again, you're going to have the skill name, and I like to put all the skills from the book in, even though you're not going to use all those skills. I find it's helpful. I just come from the D&D character sheets where they're all there, and going to one where you just write what you choose. You say you choose 5 skills, and that's all you write down. To me, my brain doesn't like that. Maybe you do, because you can still do whatever else you want. The GM will tell you what you roll for it, but I like to have the skill there so I know what my options are. So if I am not trained in administration, I know that is a skill. So if I wanted to do like a type of admin role, my brain prefers it this way. So I have a bunch of skills all listed out, and I will choose ones that I want him to be trained in. I get to spend 17 points. Before you do this, if you're using this character sheet or a physical one, you're going to go back up to these attributes: body, dexterity, strength, charisma, intelligence, and will, and then you're going to put your numbers under the base. So if I were to fill in, let's say I've got the 3 in body and dexterity, I would put all of my dexterity skills as a 3, all my strength was a 4, dex was a 3, intelligence was a 1. I'm not very smart, so all these are going to be 1s. So that I would do that for the whole character sheet. Next would be the levels. If there's a dash in it, it means I have a -2 for that skill because I'm not trained. If you're not trained in a skill, you get a -2 penalty. If you are looking at a couple specific skills like athletics, brawl, computers, I believe actually is a 0 level skill in Quantum Black because it's like modern day. Drive, everybody basically can drive. Empathy is going to be like your insight skill. It's like how well can you read people. All those are basic stealth, basic skills that you have no matter who you are. Those are called 0 level skills. So even if I don't train anything in drive, my dexterity is at least a base 3. I do not have a -2, which means I will still have 3 dice in that skill. So you have your base attribute, dexterity, strength, intelligence, whatever it is, plus your levels, 0 level skills, -2 if you're not trained, or if you are trained, then you add the bonus. So let's take my brawl skill, because you need to at least have a 2 level in a combat skill. So brawl is a combat skill. So my base strength is 4. I'm going to have the minimum of 2 ranks in it. So 4 plus 2 is 6 dice. So when I roll a character skill for brawl, I'm going to roll the dice. I always turn the modifier prompt on in the top right under, right next to stun. I put this bottom 0 as XP. I like to keep track of my experience in that box, and the modifier prompt is going to be on. I always keep it on because sometimes you have a penalty and sometimes you have a bonus, sometimes you just have a 0. But when I click brawl, I click on this this die here on the right. It's going to ask me, I've got to zoom out, I think. Where is it asking me? I think I gotta exit this out. Let's try this again. Oh, here, it's asking me here on the main page. Okay, so let me open this character sheet again. Go back down to Brawl. It's gonna have this input value prompt up here. Now I can put whatever my bonus is, if I have any. If the DM says the guy's not looking, I get a +2 dice bonus, then I put 1 there. Typically a bonus is going to be like a 1 or a 2. It's not typically that much more. One way that you can get more is if you want to spend style points on a roll. So in my Roll20, I've got an add-on which is called, what is it? think it's macros. So I have a card deck macro, and I've replaced everything for the cards with bullets to represent style points. You can do this however you want, but I can throw a style point or 2 style points on the screen, and that will allow me to add a +2 to my roll. And so my 6 + 2, now I've got 8 dice. So when I roll, let me turn myself invisible so you can see the roll. And maybe that's too much. Basically here, my brawl rolled 2 successes out of 8 dice, so that's really not that great of a roll. Actually, my average should have been 4, but that's how the rolls work. Now, when I go back to the character sheet, I am going to actually spend more than 2 skill points. You can spend up to 5 when you're first making a character. I'm going to spend all 5 on his brawl. So when he punches somebody, he rolls 9 dice. So even if I have 0 modifier, I punch. I roll 9 dice, and I got 3 successes on that. Now, when somebody's rolling their defense dice, because if you attack someone, they roll defense. You roll attack, they roll defense. I'll roll 6 dice for my defense. And in this scenario, if I punched myself, 3 attack, 3 defense, that's a wash. No damage is dealt. Versus if I had rolled and I used those 2 style points, let's see what would happen. I'd roll 11 dice. I roll 4 attack. Then I do 1 point of damage to him. Now, a lot of these people, they're going to have 4 hit points. Maybe if they're like something pretty tough, maybe it's more. But it's really going to be in this trading blows and the attack and defense is where a lot of this this flow is going to happen. So back to the skill points. If I spend 5 here, I can spend 12 more points. So I might go through and choose athletics. I already have a 4, so maybe I've got, oh, that's a 0 level skill. Maybe I want to go to like firearms. Maybe I'm trained in firearms and I have 3 points there. His dex was 3, so every time I shoot, I have a 6. Now here's another point. If you use weapons, weapons add to your dice as well. If I shoot a gun, for example, I have 6 dice. The gun might have 3 dice by itself, so I might be able to shoot with 9 dice, even though I only have a 6 in that. Brawling with fists and stuff, you pretty much want to get talents to boost that fighting style to give you extra bonuses, because otherwise just punching someone's just not going to be as effective as shooting them with a shotgun. So yeah, keep that in mind when you're making your characters. If you're going to go with like a martial artist, you might need to shift your build heavily into that. There's larceny, linguistics, medicine, piloting if I want to fly planes or helicopters, stealthing, streetwise. Maybe I have supernatural lore. What you do is you go through and you spend your 17 points. The requirement is a combat skill must be at least 2. So firearms, melee, if I used edged weapons, that would be melee. Brawling is like fisticuffs. Archery is a skill. Maybe you're Robin Hood. You could argue gunnery maybe is a combat skill. But anyways, that's going to be your character skill points. And I want to wrap this up because we're almost pushing 20 minutes. Next up is talents and resources. So you typically start with 1 talent and 1 resource, 1 of each. You jump down to talents. This is where you can kind of specialize your character. You could be, let's say, block. I've got brawl 4. If I have block, I can perform a block as reflexive action and probably stop someone's attack. You could do die hard, so it improves my death threshold. If your character goes to 0 hit points, you don't die. You're basically immobilized and you can only do 1 thing or you get worse. And then if you go down to -5, then you're dead. So about -1, -2, you're unconscious typically. And so die hard means maybe you're still awake or something like that. Finesse attack is you trade your dexterity for a different skill. You could be high pain tolerance, reduced penalty for wounds. You basically look through this. Kip up. I can stand up as a reflexive action. That might be something I want him to go for. Knockout blow. I improve my knockout ability, which is probably their stun rating. Lethal blow. This is probably one thing I would want, is to do lethal damage as opposed to non-lethal damage to my brawl attacks, which means I can kill people as opposed to just knocking them out. Lucky is a pretty generic talent you can get, where you just add 2 dice to any roll of your game, to any one roll per session. And so my sessions are usually between 2 to 3 hours. I think my last one was 4 because we hadn't played in a long time, but those will always reset. Same with your style points generally. So you go through this list, figure out what kind of works for your character. Maybe it's parry, maybe it's lucky. Maybe you're a combat character and you want instant reload, so you don't have to spend an action to switch out your magazines. There's a lot of good ones in here. And then there's a bunch more on the next page too. Total defense, improve your defensibility. That's going to probably just make it harder to hit you. You could be getting tough. You just get the +1 rating to your attribute. And then you choose a resource. You can just kind of read through this and just see which one you like. Maybe it's you have an ally, a close friend or relative that can be counted on for help. So when you're in a game, when you spend a resource, that's going to come into play during the session. You typically, I think, can use it. It's kind of up to the GM, so I'll talk with them about it. Maybe you're famous. Maybe you have a mentor somewhere. Maybe you've got a rank. Most everybody starts with rank 0 in Quantum Black, but you can work your way up by buying this talent more and more times. So yeah, you go through and choose your talents and resources. Then you get to spend 15 experience. 15 experience will buy you, in one spend, 15 will give you another talent or another resource. You can also buy a higher attribute. So if I go to my character sheet again, let's say I want to buy a 2 in my intelligence because I don't want that penalty for having a 1. 15 experience, I'll be able to do that because you take the new attribute, so I'm upgrading in intelligence to 2, multiply it by 5 points, so 10, and then that's how much it costs. So if I go back to my character sheet, I want to boost this up to a 2. That costs me 10 of my experience. That leaves me with 5 XP left. And then maybe I want to save that. Maybe I want to spend it on a skill. If I spend on skills, it's going to be the same equation except times 2 for the new rank. So if I wanted to buy rank, let's say I wanted to buy rank 2 in Con. Let's say I already had a 1 in Con and I wanted to upgrade that to a 2. That would cost me 2 times 2 is 4, and that would change to 1. So I have 1 experience left, and I will save that. The way that upgrading skills works is you always have to make sure your base is correct. So you all want to go through and make sure all of your primary attributes are listed correctly. Since I bought the 2 in intelligence, I would have to fill that in and make sure all these are updated. And then when I go to, like say I had Con, if I upgrade that from a 1 to a 2, I still have to make sure the math adds up. So 2 plus 2 is 4. This one for computers is a 0 level skill. So 2 plus 0 is still 2. My brawl was 4 plus 5 is 9. Athletics is 4 plus 0 is 4. And you just kind of balance out the character sheet this way. After that, your finishing touches is your name, description, your look, kind of maybe a blurb about your backstory. And then you get style points. In my games, the characters start off with 3 style points at the beginning of the game. That's typically because you get a point if you took a flaw, and then you get a point for a couple other things. They say each unused experience point. So I would get 1 extra. I didn't actually know that was a rule. But that's how you make a character. So you kind of finish them up. Give them a name, give them kind of a backstory. When you're tracking your hit points on the character sheet, let me see if I can. You know what? I don't think I can fix this. I need to refresh. Okay, here we go. So hit points is going to be on the bottom right, the bottom little square is the modifier prompt. I always leave that on. That's how you add skill points or penalties, or add style points or penalties to your roll. And then above that is your damage counters, I believe. Shoot, I made this too small again. All right, let's just look at Tori's. Okay, so you have style points 0. I keep track of those with these bullets, but if you don't, then you put style points there, so you'd have like 3. Maximum health is 5. Current health is 5. When you keep track of your damage, I've got 1 damage here. That's when your current health goes up. So let's see. Maybe I can zoom in this time. Not really. Okay, well, I think that's about it. The last rule is there's a 7th attribute in Quantum Black called Sanity. I forgot this a lot of the times, but I put it in as a skill because there's no place to put it on the character sheet. But Sanity is your charisma plus your will, and that can track magic, like mana, and it also is like Call of Cthulhu. If you see something, you have to roll Sanity, and you can have madness. So anyways, 26 minutes. Let's get out of here. I hope you play Quantum Black. I hope you make a character and join the Dark Tales. But we will be seeing you in the next episode. Take care.